What's going on, guys? Right, Bommy Teacher in the house, and I am here with another draft breakdown for you guys. Your Royal Bournemouth Brumbies have joined up with the Ultra Recon Doubles Draft League, the URDDL. So this is a really interesting draft. It's a doubles format draft, which is something I've never done before, so this is a new one. Gotta be an interesting one to work with. Not something I considered myself ever wanting to draft before. Some interesting things to note about the format. Each team has the option to draft a mega. However, the megas were actually incorporated in the tier list with all the other Pokemon, which is a little bit unusual. I don't see that very often. I'm not sure how big of a fan I am of that. I think I would much rather just have a mega pick and then have the rest. But again, that's just the way the leagues run. But yeah, nonetheless, we got a pretty interesting team. We got a bit of a spicy team. I did actually break the rules that I set for myself when I draft a little bit in this league. It's going to be a bit more of a casual league, really, but it's going to be a long league. There's 11 weeks in the regular season, so it's going to be pretty long-winded, but it's going to be fun nonetheless. So let's break down what I drafted and how the draft went for us. So now, my first pick, honestly, was probably the biggest mistake I made at the draft. I was looking at a couple of Pokemon that I was thinking of getting. We ended up being 9th pick in the draft out of 12, so we weren't too bad. We were pretty close to the wheel, but we were kind of not as close as I would have liked. And that meant that we did actually lose out on some of the picks I wanted. But nonetheless, the first pick of the draft for me this time round is going to be Dracovish. Now, a lot of people know I've had Dracovish in a couple of drafts before, and I've tore shit up with it. This is a very, very powerful Pokemon. It did actually recently get banned from OU, which I don't agree with, personally, but that's just the way it goes. Obviously, Dracovish with that Fisher's Rend and Strong Jaw is a monster. If it goes first, it has like a 570 base power move, which is pretty disgusting. But nonetheless, in doubles, it's actually a pretty strong mon to have. It does require support to make it work, though, and that's where part of the problem we came in with this draft is trying to navigate our way to getting the support Pokemon for it. But nonetheless, Dracovish, very, very solid Pokemon, a pretty good Pokemon to draft a team around, especially in doubles format. There's a lot of ways you can support it, and you'll see a lot of that as we start moving through the draft. So, of course, this was where my mistake came in, because I was kind of half-heartedly hoping Whimsicott would get back to me, of course, because Whimsy Draco is incredibly powerful. Unfortunately, that got sniped from us, so we had to look for a different way that we can support it, and I noticed Grimmsnarl was still sitting there. Now, Grimmsnarl is a very, very nice Pokemon in doubles because it gets an awful lot of utility combined with the ability Prankster. Prankster is probably one of the best abilities this thing can have. It gets screens, it gets taunts, it gets Thunder Wave and stuff like that, so it has an awful lot of utility to work with. And not to mention, its attack stat actually makes moves like Spirit Break actually be pretty solid. So it can actually deliver a decent amount offensively as well. It's got a pretty wide move pool. So I can do a lot of things with this, so I'm really excited to pair it up. Obviously, Thunder Wave is great for allowing Dracovish to hit first, meaning those Fisher's Rends hit a little bit harder. But nonetheless, Grimmsnarl, really, really solid support Pokemon. Not necessarily the support I wanted. I was looking for Tailwind, primarily, which is why Whimsicott was high on the priority list. I should have picked Whimsicott first. That's basically the long and short of it. But nonetheless, Grimmsnarl offers a lot for us. It gives us a Fairy type, of course. So we've already got a Fairy and a Water Dragon, so our cores are getting close to being completed already, which is pretty insane. In 2 picks, we've done pretty well. So I was looking around for Tailwind Pokemon. There was quite a lot of Tailwind Pokemon up, but a lot of them are lower tiers. So I decided I was just going to do something unconventional. And I actually picked up Kartana. Now, Kartana is a very, very interesting pick. Obviously, being an Ultra Beast, it only has Beast Boost, which doesn't matter. But that attack stat is monstrous, and being able to work with that in a doubles format is very strong. Now, Kartana does actually get Tailwind, which is kind of an interesting little bit of tech, which obviously means that both it and Dracovish are going to be able to do a lot of damage. Obviously, Kartana has a decent speed tier anyway. Obviously, it's not Prankster, which is a bit unfortunate, but the reality is, this thing, even under Tailwind, this thing under any damage, can really hit hard. It does get Soul Stance, gets a huge amount of coverage moves, gets very powerful stabs as well in Leaf Blade and Smart Strike. This thing can hit very, very hard in the right circumstances, and that's definitely something that I'll be looking for with Cortana. Obviously, that special defense is a little bit lackluster, and it doesn't really help. It's got a low HP stat as well, but the rest of its stats are insanely good to work with, especially the attack and physical defense, and the speed tier is pretty nice for the team. It gives us a bit of a fast Pokemon because both Grimmsnarl and Dracovish are not fast, so having the speed tiers is always important. Speaking of speed tiers, the next pick of the draft is going to be Cinderace. Cinderace, very good fire type, of course. This now pretty much, well, this does now round out all of our cores. We've got Fairy Dragon and Steel and Fire Water Grass in all of these picks, which makes the rest of the team pretty easy to draft with. But Cinderace is a fast physical attacker, of course. Does get U-turn for pivoting. Obviously, core change is kind of nice if entry hazards does become a thing. There are quite a few people that are not super familiar with doubles draft in the league, so they may still prioritize entry hazards. So core change is a thing. Does get priority in Sucker Punch as well, which can definitely be useful, little revenge killer. Pyro Ball, of course, hits like a truck. Is a very, very powerful move for Cinderace, of course. And potentially with the DLC coming, Libero, if it's allowed. I think it may be banned. I have to check the rules doc. I think it's banned, but I'll have to look. But nonetheless, if it's not banned, then that's a very, very powerful pick, nonetheless. But even with Blaze, this thing can be very, very useful. It does have a good enough speed tail that I can scarf it and speed creep things like Zeraora, for example, and stuff like that. So Cinderace has a lot of value to this team. Being fast, it can actually hit pretty hard. It can also take good advantage of Tailwind. Even outspeeding Scarfers that are designed to outspeed it, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of utility that it brings, a lot of damage output that it gets. Flame Charge is also a nice little bit of a trick that you can run to kind of outspeed things that it shouldn't be able to outspeed naturally. So that's another little tech that I might be running. But yeah, Cinderace is very, very viable Pokemon. Gets a lot of moves that I can work with, so I'm looking forward to seeing what we can do with it. So my next few picks are pretty much just fun picks at this point. I pretty much got everything I really wanted out of this draft. I got my cores and I got a very strong support. So the next Pokemon I decided to add a little bit more to that support pool is Raichu, the Cantonian form. It's worth pointing out. So Raichu is a very, very interesting Pokemon because even though obviously it's got a decent enough set of stats, it's not the most appealing thing in the world. It has Fake Out, which is a very, very nice utility move for doubles. It also has Wish support, so that's something else to bear in mind. Obviously, those who are familiar with VGC will remember Wolf Glix winning Raichu. Very, very good set. Something that could definitely come again. Obviously, Nuzzle is nice for speed control, which allowed Dracovish to outspeed. And it also gives us a special attacker, which currently the team was lacking. I drafted 4 physical mons at the start, so drafting some special mons makes us a little bit less susceptible to physical walls. Even though there weren't that many physical walls drafted in the overall draft. Having some special power is definitely nothing to sneeze at. Raichu is very, very solid for that. It's got decent enough coverage moves. Does get things like Focus Blast. It gets Grass Knot. Does get Nasty Plot for setup as well. So I've got a lot of ways that I can make this work. Does get Volt Switch. Does of course get Surf as well, which could be very interesting if I actually bluff running Strong Jaw on Dracovish, because it does actually also get Water Absorb, so I can actually use it to heal up as well. Be a pretty funny tech. Probably won't bring that, but you never know. You never quite know. I do draft some very funny shenanigans sometimes. But yeah, definitely a very nice support Pokemon to bring to the team, as well as a bit of a damage dealer. Does of course get Volt Switch to pivot out. Does go nicely with Cinderace's U-turn. So yeah, we're pretty strong here with our little friend Raichu. Shoutouts to my boy Denistra, of course, because that is one of his mascots. Alright, so next up, I decided I was going to go full British mode. I needed more special offense, so why not grab a spot of tea? Funny enough, I actually made a cup of tea when I actually drafted this pick, so it was pretty perfect timing. So Poltergeist is on the team. Very, very solid special bulk, of course, and a very, very strong special attack stat. Makes this very, very potent, especially if you run like a weak armor set. Get that speed tier up, really, really start putting in a chunk of work. This thing gets a lot of damage moves, gets a decent amount of coverage as well. So this thing could be a very, very potent special sweeper if it's left unchecked. Obviously, of course, it is weak to Sucker Punch, so that is something to bear in mind. But nonetheless, this thing's setup power is pretty strong. It does get a lot of damage, and I'm looking forward to using it. I've never used Poltergeist before, so this will be a first. But it'll be very, very interesting to work with it. Gives us a secondary carry aside from Dracovish and Cortana, of course. and gives us some really dominant special presence, which can be a little bit hard to deal with sometimes. Alright, so next on the pick list is going to be Toxicroak. Toxicroak is a very, very cool Pokemon. I needed a poison and a fighting type, so I drafted it both in once. Toxicroak is actually a very, very useful Pokemon as well, because it does actually have water absorb. Not water absorb, dry skin. It has a water immunity in dry skin, which also heals it, which is very nice. It kind of works the same way as water absorb, to be fair. It does give us an unfortunate fire weakness, which does somewhat suck, but it doesn't matter. We have ways to deal with that anyway. But yeah, Toxicroak can be special with Nasty Plot, but it's not the best special in the world. But obviously very, very solid Assault Vest user in doubles. Does get Fake Out as well, so we got a bit more support. Does get Speed Control and Icy Wind as well, which is nice. So this works very nicely with Dracovish, of course. I can switch it in on things like water moves, like Liquidation, for example, from Araquanid, which is something I'll potentially be facing in week 1. So we've got a pretty interesting little mon here. Can be a very, very solid answer. The fighting typing is pretty nice. Does get priority and Sucker Punch as well, so there's a pretty nice way I can play around this. Its stabs are pretty strong, especially in doubles. There's quite a lot of things that are weak to poison and fighting. So, no. Hopefully Toxicroak puts in work. There's a lot of good things coming from it, hopefully. But yeah, will be really interesting to see how I can make this thing work. The next pick is a mon that I've used a lot in playthroughs recently, but we're bringing it to competitive for a change, and that's going to be Xatu. So, I had the option of Xatu or Sigilif here. I felt like Xatu may have been a little bit better, mostly because of Magic Bounce. Magic Bounce is a very, very nice ability, potentially bouncing back any speed controls, any like Will-O-Wisps or anything like that. I can just bounce it back at the Solar Dracovish. It gets a little bit of utility. Xatu does, of course, get Tailwind, does get Carmine and Stored Power as well. I believe it also gets Cosmic Power now, so I can definitely make this a very, very bulky utility support mon. Could definitely do a lot of work. Does also get Trick, which is nice. Does actually get Trick Room as well, but I don't think Trick Room is the best options for my team. Although my team can be a little slow, so there's no harm in that. But yeah, there's a lot of options with it. Very, very solid utility mon. Is a good hazard deterrent as well, because Magic Bounce threats are not very fun to deal with if you're an opponent. So yeah, we got good options here with our little Xatu. Alright, next up, I was looking for a ground type in the lower tiers, as obviously all my upper tiers are picked. I couldn't really find too much other than Claydol, so Claydol is jumping on the team. Claydol, of course, very, very bulky, does get a lot of utility moves, does actually get Rain Dance, so I can actually power up Dracovish's moves, which is pretty nice. Does get Stealth Rock as well. Does get Trick Room if I wanted to use it. But nonetheless, pretty bulky-ish mon. Does get Earth Power as well. Does have Levitate, which is nice. So any like spread Earthquake moves that Raichu Cinderace don't really want to deal with. And Toxicroak, I can just switch in Claydol and have no problem. Does get Cosmic Power, gets a lot of utility as well, much like Xatu in a way, just a slightly different typing. Does give us Dual Psychic, but you know what, doesn't matter. I have no problem with that, because I probably won't be bringing both together naturally, unless I really need them both. But nonetheless, Claydol offers a decent amount of bulk to the team, and gives us a nice bit of utility that I can help work with Dracovish on, which gives us a lot of power to work with. So yeah, I really like Claydol. Hopefully Claydol has a good role in this team. I'm really looking forward to using it. And the last Pokemon on the pick, I have to be honest, is a pick I never thought I'd see the day that I would ever draft it. And that's Mega Audino. Now, originally I was toying with the idea of not drafting a Mega. All of Blissey, Chansey, and Mega Audino were up, as well as regular Audino. So I was kind of intrigued into which one I would go for. Nothing was actually sniped from me. Womble could have picked both, 2 of the 3 up at the time if he really wanted, but it would never have been smart. So I had the option, and I decided to go with Mega Audino. Now, Mega Audino has a huge amount of bulk, as you can see on the screen, but it also has one of the key abilities, which is why I wanted to draft it, which is Healer. Now, Healer in doubles is a very, very strong ability, because for those who are not aware, Healer is a 33% chance of healing off the status condition of your partner, which is fantastic for things like Dracovish getting burned or poisoned, any Pokemon getting paralyzed or put to sleep or anything like that. Mega Audino could just passively heal it off at the end of a turn, which is very, very solid. This thing does also get a lot of utility as well. Does get Aromatherapy, does get Heal Pulse, does get Wish Protect support. and stuff like that. Offensively, it is a little bit lackluster. Doesn't have the best offense in the world. It does get Dazzling Gleam, of course, being part Fairy type as well. It's stab boosted, which can be a pretty nice little bit of chip damage. Does get actually quite a wide special move pool. It gets a lot of special moves that you may not think it gets. So that's pretty cool, pretty worth using. But yeah, I think the bulky support nature of Mega Audino can actually really work nicely for my team. It can definitely prevent a lot of unnecessary status and things like that coming in. Does also get screens as well, which is something that's nice to work with. But yeah, that's going to be the team. Week 1, we are going to be facing Rabbit Hunter, so that will probably be around about next week. We'll probably have that. So I'm looking forward to that. I hope you guys are as well. So I'm going to get on out of here, and thank you so much for watching. My name is Rybombi Teacher. I'm your coach of the Royal Bomber for Bombies. Stay safe, stay awesome, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.